Next on Currents News, this is the deadline for reuniting families who crossed the U.S. border illegally. The latest is next. Protests inside Santiago's cathedral. The target is Chile's top cardinal. Prosecutors want to talk to him.
On this feast day of Saints Joachim and Anne, Catholic Charities host a family get-together at the Nursing and Rehab Center named after the saints. I'm Tim Harfman, and I'm standing by.
We cannot just build the church as institutions. Church is the people of God.
Cardinal Patrick Di Rosario, elevated by Pope Francis, is a man of history. Tonight, an exclusive interview with him as he visits the Brooklyn Diocese. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. The deadline is now to reunite migrant families split up after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally. President Trump's zero-tolerance policy has sparked a lot of controversy and protest. Omar Jimenez reports the latest.
It was an incredibly hard experience for me when they separated me from my son.
That has been the reality for many immigrant parents separated from their children at the border.
They took away my son. They told me I would never see him. They told me they would deport me and he would stay with the government.
The U.S. government says more than 1,000 families have been reunited, but many still haven't had the chance to see their loved ones. More than 900 parents have not been reunited with their children, missing Thursday's key deadline. Some parents can't be located. Some have serious criminal records, and others have already been deported without their children. The missed deadline sparking protests across the country.
We don't know the circumstances of all of those cases, but at least our clients, the ones we have been able to locate in Central America, they did not want to be deported without their children.
It was back on June 26th that a federal judge in California ordered a halt to most family separations and mandated a July 10th deadline to reunite children under 5, along with Thursday's July 26th deadline to reunite all remaining children.
The separation itself was a horrific, dark act, but then the administration was incompetent on top of it, or callous, and didn't track the connection between the parents and the children, so it's having an enormously difficult time reuniting the families.
We need Congress to deal with the immigration question. There are loopholes in our laws that are being exploited, and we need to get them focused.
In Washington, Omar Jimenez, Currents News.
A sex abuse crisis in Chile prompted a protest inside Santiago's cathedral. Demonstrators unfurled banners during a mass celebrated by Cardinal Ricardo Ezzati. The protesters are demanding he step down as the Archbishop of Santiago, along with other bishops accused of sexual abuse. Pope Francis has accepted 5 bishop resignations so far. Chilean prosecutors are summoning Cardinal Ezzati to testify in court on the scandals. Leaders of a Catholic order in New Jersey said that 30 people have come forward alleging sexual abuse. The Order of St. Benedict of New Jersey posted a letter about the charges on its website. It said the order had settled 8 lawsuits with alleged victims, while 7 others are pending. The abuse allegedly took place while many of the survivors were students at Del Barton School in Morristown. A dangerous wildfire is shutting down a national treasure, Yosemite National Park. The blaze there is one of many that have ignited, burning thousands of acres across 14 states. Camila Bernal reports from Yosemite.
Fires around the country continue to burn. Here in Yosemite, the Ferguson fire has burned more than 41,000 acres and is only 26% contained. The Yosemite Valley and the highways around the area have been closed to the public, and this is the first time that they do this since 1990. It's going to impact not just tourism, but also the park's economy. More than 17,000 firefighters and support personnel are battling blazes across the western United States, from Southern California all the way up to Alaska. The latest wildfire, the Cranston fire, started Wednesday in Southern California, and by Thursday, thousands in San Bernardino County were ordered to evacuate. Authorities arrested 32-year-old Brandon McGlover, who they say started the fire, along with several others this week. McGlover is being charged with 5 counts of arson. And near Yosemite, the Ferguson fire has torched more than 41,000 acres. One CAL FIRE worker was killed battling the blaze earlier this month. The growing fire forced several areas within Yosemite National Park to close Wednesday.
Strictly for visitor safety, we have to close the roads. We can't have vehicles on that road.
And with summer tourist season in full swing, that meant closing hotels and campgrounds typically packed with visitors.
We found out that the park was closing today, yeah. So we got here last night and we haven't really been able to do that much, but we just kind of been improvising.
And in total, 75 large fires are burning throughout the country in 14 different states, most of them in the West. Here in California, there are 5 of those large fires. And in terms of the Yosemite Valley, authorities expecting this area to be closed until at least Sunday. Reporting in Yosemite Valley, I'm Camila Bernal.
The big international summit to fight for religious freedom wrapped up this afternoon in Washington. The U.S. State Department organized the 3-day event. Vice President Mike Pence addressed 80 delegations from around the world.
The United States will launch the new International Religious Freedom Fund.
Pence said the goal is to guarantee freedom of faith for generations to come. Well, it's an important and joyful day at the Catholic Charities Senior Center in Coney Island, and it's linked to the parents of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Saints Joachim and Anne. Currents News' Tim Harfman is standing by at the facility named after the saints with the story. Tim, what can you tell us?
Liz, today is the feast day of Saints Joachim and Anne. Not only were they the parents of Mary, they're also the patron saints of grandparents. Many residents here are parents and grandparents themselves, and their families gather on this feast day to join the celebration. For Linda Desgro and her family, this gathering is a way of being closer together after Linda lost her mother in April.
It feels good. I'm going through a hard time, and if it wasn't for them, I couldn't get through it.
Dozens of other residents are also spending time with loved ones. To celebrate the feast day of Saints Joachim and Anne, Catholic Charities hosts a get-together with Mass, raffle prizes, and a carnival.
It's so homey and everyone is wonderful. And the most important is Linda is very, very happy, and that's what makes us very, very happy.
The Coney Island Center is the only Catholic nursing and rehab facility in Brooklyn, which offers both short and long-term care for nearly 200 residents. Linda appreciates the care she receives.
Everybody's good. Doctors are good. The nurses are good. The food is good.
Monsignor Alfred Lapinto is the CEO of Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens. He says the facility not only helps residents physically, but spiritually as well.
We have the full-time chaplain here. We have Mass here every day. In addition to that, they have other religious activities. Plus, we provide access to people for other faiths.
And funds raised from those raffles will help upgrade medical equipment so the center can continue providing care for residents with dementia. In Coney Island, Tim Harfman, Currents News. Liz, back to you.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Help is coming to older priests, nuns, and religious brothers. The U.S. Catholic Bishops is sending out $25 million to assist those in retirement. The money will go to pay for things such as nursing care and medications. The funds will help fill the gap between savings and expenses. The bishops are also planning to help out with retirement planning and elder care with additional contributions later this year. Potentially big news about Alzheimer's. Researchers are cautiously optimistic about a new drug. An early trial of the experimental medicine is showing improvements in patients. Cognition skills appear to be getting better, and clinical signs of the disease in brains are reduced. The drug, called BAN2401, cut down the buildup of a key protein in an Alzheimer's patient's brain by 70% on average. It's being called Greece's Pompeii, the death toll from the wildfires in Greece climbing as firefighters look for missing people within the rubble. Melissa Bell reports from the fire zone.
Here in Mati, to the east of Athens, that really saw some of the worst of the devastation, also the highest death toll as a result of these wildfires. The survivors are slowly coming back to the ruins of their homes and beginning to assess the damage. And as they do so, there is this anger that more was not done to help them, that more was not done to prevent a tragedy that saw the entire population of this village forced to head down to the ocean in order to survive. People are angry that no proper evacuation plan was put into place, and we put that anger to the mayor of Mati and of Rufina, the nearby big town. He said that no evacuation plan could have been put in place to prevent this fire. This was a town that was built without terribly much planning thought going into it, and this is its only road. And what happened on that terrible night is that the cars were stuck in a traffic jam that meant that so many of them died either in their cars or trying to flee them. There was no way out of Mati on that terrible night. Still, the death toll is likely to rise. So many people are still missing, those that might have burnt in their homes and have yet to be found, or those who, having fled down to the sea, never managed to escape the waters. Melissa Bell, Mati.
Science is also making other news, this time in the 9/11 terrorist attack. After 17 years, the remains of a man killed during the destruction of the World Trade Center have been identified as Scott Michael Johnson. The New York Medical Examiner's Office retested his DNA using a new system that helps with degraded samples. Over 1,000 other victims are yet to be identified. Still ahead, Currents News exclusive interview with Cardinal Patrick DiRosario. He visited the Brooklyn Diocese after the Pope appointed him to a historic post. The Holy Father is ordering a rare display of the Shroud of Turin. He wants young people to see it. And I'll have the story of a young girl who is working hard to help hospitalized vets.
The world is a home for everybody.
Cardinal Patrick DiRosario speaking in an exclusive interview with Currents News. He is a man who has made history. Pope Francis picked him to become Bangladesh's first cardinal ever. He received his red hat from the pontiff in 2016. The cardinal shares many of the Holy Father's top priorities. He's from the peripheries, and he's coping with a refugee crisis. Rohingya Muslims fleeing religious persecution in Myanmar have flooded into his homeland, and at the height of the migrant wave last year, Francis visited both countries. Since then, Cardinal DiRosario says the situation has improved. He knows the Brooklyn Diocese well, having made many trips here before, and for the first time since his elevation, he recently celebrated Mass at Queen of Angels Parish in Sunnyside. Queens is home to more Bangladeshi immigrants than anywhere else in the country. So tonight, a special interview with Cardinal DiRosario exploring many things, including immigrants, the strength of the Catholic faith, and his reaction to his historic selection. National correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, conducted this exclusive discussion. He is here now. Christopher, what does he see as his main mission?
Well, Liz, as the first red hat from Bangladesh, Cardinal DiRosario sees his appointment as a chance to follow the message of Pope Francis to reach out to the peripheries. Though he is happy to be the voice of the church in Bangladesh, he admits he was surprised that the Holy Father chose him for the job.
Yeah, when the news came, I was the first one to be, dumbfounded. Did not know why. The question just came, why? Why me? Then I found out it's not me, it's Bangladesh, it's Bangladesh church. Church is poor, the country is poor, but it has its richness and values, evangelical values. People are happy. Pope Francis took an option to bring what is good in this peripheral church to the center, to the world.
Now, many Bangladeshis immigrated here in the 1970s after the War of Liberation. Can you describe to me some of their journeys and their experiences in the past decades as they've made a home here in the Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens?
The independence of Bangladesh, it came because of this cultural identity that we're looking for. There was a nationalism, and because of that, some of the English-speaking people were not feeling at home. They thought their future was finished. I always thought that migration is not without any motives, any aim, any goal. God has brought them here with a certain purpose. I see they're coming here as a kind of a missionary.
Colonel, can you describe to me some of the history of Christianity and Catholicism in Bangladesh and what you see as its contributions to the global church?
In the beginning of the 17th century, there was persecution. About 600 children and women were killed in Diang. War was there in 71, but the good things was that church went beyond their boundaries and they went to the other people. For example, the Caritas and all this relief work and all, they started to go to the Muslims, the Hindus and all. So, church was considered as open to the others. It was difficult, it's a transitional moment. And this goes on now. The whole evangelization of the tribal peoples are there. And I think that the face of the church has been changed with the incoming of the tribal people in the church. Now it's almost 50% of the tribal. Church cannot be restricted to few. It should have the openness to the mission to the others, because we cannot just build the church as institutions. Church is the people of God.
Pope Francis has put you in the national spotlight. Not only did he make you the country's first cardinal, but he visited your country just last December. Now, one of the reasons for Pope Francis's visit was to shine a spotlight on the situation of the Rohingyas. 1 year later, how would you describe it? You have accepted over 800,000. Has the situation improved?
You will be happy to know Caritas is the biggest and the most excellent work is being done in the camps in the midst of 800,000 refugees. Caritas is recognized as the best model. But as for the going back, it's a big problem. The things have become very complicated because of historical thing, because of economic interests, because of political things. It has become difficult. When will they go? We don't know. But some will go. But how many, when, we don't know.
As you reflect on the situation of your own country, having welcomed in nearly 1 million refugees, I'd like for you to reflect on what you've learned and how it may apply to the situation in the United States.
People who are coming, they're human beings. They have rights to live. They have rights to have shelter. The world is a home for everybody, and not any the specific nation. Common home, Laudato Si says. So restrictions are always a kind of restrictions to freedom.
Cardinal de Rosario also pointed to the Holy Father's reminder that Catholics are required to treat all migrants with human dignity. Liz?
What a fascinating man. Christopher, how would you sum up Cardinal de Rosario?
Liz, one of the phrases we hear from Pope Francis a lot is to sort of lead with the joy of the gospel, and I think this is a man that very much embodies that. He's all smiles, dealing with serious issues, migration, climate change, trafficking, but bringing joy to it all. And in all of these issues, he said he was going to discuss them with Bishop DiMarzio here in Brooklyn when they met earlier this week. This is a man who's taking his pastoral responsibilities seriously.
All right, Christopher, thank you very much. Very interesting interview. Still to come on Currents News, one of the most famous relics in the Catholic Church, the Shroud of Turin, is going on display. The rare move is being made by the Pope. A hard-working and generous young girl is helping hospitalized vets. I'll have her story. We'll be right back. In Italy, a rare display reserved for an extraordinary group of young men and women made possible by Pope Francis. Imagine being among the few to witness the relic believed to be the burial cloth of Christ up close. Cody Williams explains how it all came about.
In preparation for the Synod of Bishops on the youth and vocation, the Pope has authorized an extraordinary exposition of the Shroud of Turin. Young people from Piedmont will be able to see it on August 10th before beginning a pilgrimage to Rome to visit Pope Francis. It will be a rare opportunity to see one of the most important relics of the Catholic faith, the silhouette of a man who has the same wounds that Jesus suffered during the Passion. These clots, these blood scabs the poor body had on its skin, are diluted, and the estimated time to create this phenomenon agrees with what we see on the shroud. Between 36 and 40 hours, the exact amount of time the body of Christ spent in the sepulchre. The Holy Shroud is kept in a chapel at the Cathedral of Turin and only shown under extraordinary circumstances. It will be years before it can be viewed again. In Rome, Cody Williams, Currents News.
Water pouring down the side of a skyscraper on purpose. Check out this scene in China. The water is flowing down the big building, which is more than 350 feet tall. That makes it one of the largest artificial waterfalls in the world. The man-made marvel draws water from a tank so big it takes 2 hours to fill it up, and the whole thing costs around $118 per hour. It's a lot of money. A common first job of sorts for youngsters is a good old-fashioned lemonade stand. Well, one girl in Michigan is doing more than turning lemons to lemonade. She's giving back.
I just really like seeing people happy.
Young Sammy Stryker has made that her life's mission. She's been pretty successful at it for the past few years, thanks to the lemonade business she launched when she was just 9 years old. Originally, her plan was to raise money for school clothes until she saw someone who needed the money more.
My mom showed me a video on Facebook of a hurt veteran, and I decided to help him the first year.
Since her start in 2014, she's helped a lot of veterans at the VA hospital. The first couple of years, she sold the lemonade from her driveway in Saginaw Township. Over the last 2 years, she's set up shop in front of American Legion Post 439. As far as donations go, this year, Sammy aimed high.
This year, my goal is $2,000.
And she reached that goal thanks to the generosity of strangers.
But a lot of people give me like 20s and 10s for just 1 cup of lemonade.
And many give more than cash. They also offer words of encouragement.
They say that we need more people like you in the community because we can take all the help we can get for the hospitals, and because there's a lot of people that need help.
The people at the Veterans Hospital are shocked that such a young businesswoman could do so much for America's heroes.
It's a great message to other students and other young people, you know, to be as generous and hardworking as she is.
The secret to her success is pretty simple.
We use a lot of sugar.
Sounds good to me. Good for you. Next year, Sammy wants to more than double her total and raise $5,000 for the Veterans Hospital. We wish her luck. I think she can do it. That is Currents News. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Liz Faublas. Set your DVR to record this program so that you never miss it, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.